I think he was basically in self-destruction mode. He literally was failing drug tests on purpose. So he used to lie about them in college, but then when he got to pro ball, he was literally doing it on purpose so that he didn't have to quit. He wanted the league to suspend him, which they did. They suspended him for a year. But that still wasn't rock bottom for him. Rock bottom for him, he shared it as him being in a parking lot, and he thought he was taking the same drugs that he usually took. But unfortunately, it must have been laced with something else. And I think they said it was laced with fentanyl. And he literally passed out for 5 hours.
Casa, make yourself at home, do your do. Welcome to my pad, this your lab, go create your move.
This episode is brought to you by Subway. What's good, everybody? It is 99 miles per hour, and I'm your host, Perci Garner. And we got a solo show today, but we got some great topics we're going to be covering, some good stories. Looking forward to sharing those with you guys. But before we get to all that, I just want to let you guys know that we are looking for your assistance. So we want you to hit the like button, subscribe, and check out the links we got down in the description. If you're looking to start your own podcast, we got all the links to the equipment on Amazon that we use. If you do decide to purchase something using those links, then it gives us a little kickback. So we'd appreciate that. And then we really appreciate if you do subscribe. It's free and it's easy. Just click the subscribe button. But if you don't want to subscribe, liking the video would help us out a lot. Now, today we're going to get into a couple stories about Darren Waller. He's a tight end for the Oakland Raiders. We're going to be talking about Warren Buffett. If you don't know him, then you probably need to care about your finances more. And we're going to be talking about the iPhone 13 launch. So if you want to hear more stories about technology, phones, and all that stuff, because that's stuff I love, make sure you hit the like button. But before we get into any of those stories, I also want to say thank you to Subway for sponsoring this episode. And without you, it wouldn't be possible. And I want to say, hey guys, if you haven't tried the new Cali Fresh sandwiches at Subway, you probably should. Like, fix your life. But let's get into this, man. I hope I covered everything. But yeah, we took a week off, and it always feels weird when I take a week off. I need to stop doing that. So it's Josh's fault. It's not really, but anywho, we want to talk about, before we actually get into that, I'm actually going to talk about my Pittsburgh Steelers experience since, Josh does the Dogs podcast about the Cleveland Browns.
Well, hang on a second.
All right.
Who'd the Steelers play?
The Oakland Raiders. Or no,
the
Las Vegas Raiders. Dang it. Las Vegas Raiders. I wonder how long it's going to take for me to actually because I said that in the intro about Waller, didn't I?
Yep.
Oh, my gosh.
I thought about correcting you, but I was
you let me go through until this time. Okay.
That's right.
Makes sense. Las Vegas Raiders. So the Steelers played a real team in the no offense, Houston Texans, but you know what I'm saying. But no, I'm not one of those Steelers fans that's a super hater of the Browns. I obviously play into it and it's fun, but I'm actually going to a Browns game this weekend. But I'm going to watch Justin Fields. Hopefully he gets a start. Andy Dalton got hurt. I'm looking forward to seeing him, do well. And that's going to be kind of the topic of today's stories is, I would say, unlike most people in this world, I don't care how much you guys, want to deny this, most people love seeing people fail. I do not, however. I know a lot of people early on were, didn't like Baker Mayfield or whatever, and I don't care that he danced. I don't care that he, was feeling dangerous. I don't care anything. It's obviously different. He's got a different attitude. He had to take a different route. But I love seeing people succeed no matter where they're at. So we obviously got Justin Fields who's starting his career, and Ohio State quarterbacks have just not had a good track record in the NFL. So even though Dwayne Haskins plays for my Steelers, I don't know how that's going to turn out. So I'm banking on Justin Fields panning out.
You're going to find out.
Yeah, we are. You think so?
They said Ben's got a pec injury after the Raiders game. So I don't know if that means he's not going to play.
He did get destroyed. I think I know the play that happened on.
Yeah.
It was bad. Okay. Pec injury. Dwayne Haskins. Are you sure they're putting him in? Did they say that?
What are they going to do? Mason Rudolph?
Yeah.
The confidence behind that was.
Yeah. Fun. No, they should bring Cordell Stewart back. Actually, speaking of Cordell Stewart, he's going to be doing I think a signing or something here in a few months in Pittsburgh. Maybe I'll make it down there. He's part of the reason I wore number 10, and Colby Byram's the other part. But yeah, I really want to see Justin Fields succeed, and I really hope. And Chicago hasn't had a good quarterback in years either, so they did have someone from Ohio, Mitch Trubisky, who has better stats than I do in the state of Ohio, but it's all good. He played more years. But I do want to touch on this Darren Waller story. So Darren Waller is a tight end for the Las Vegas Raiders. And I knew nothing about his story. I just knew he kind of came out of nowhere. Well, apparently he didn't come out of nowhere. He was always highly touted as a great receiver. At a high school, he went to Georgia Tech and then was drafted in the 6th round. And the reason he dropped to the 6th round is because people knew about his character, and apparently, he's not, a troublemaker. He just, was living a life where he was addicted to drugs of all types. And, it reared what's that saying? It reared its ugly head. Reared its ugly head at the wrong time, right when he started his professional career. Some might say the right time because he had drafted. So, but he had, he was kind of just throwing away his opportunity of playing in NFL, something he had worked for his whole life, and he just wasn't really interested. He was faking drug tests and just doing all the sorts, pretty much trying any drug out there, going to parties all the time, and his priorities just weren't straight. And I did not know this at all. So when I saw this story on YouTube, he was being interviewed by Steve Smith, the receiver who played with him when he got drafted by the Ravens in 2015. But I think he was basically in self-destruction mode. He literally was failing drug tests on purpose. So he used to lie about them in college, but then when he got to pro ball, he was literally doing it on purpose so that he didn't have to quit. He wanted the league to suspend him, which they did. They suspended him for a year. But that still wasn't rock bottom for him. Rock bottom for him, he shared it as him being in a parking lot, and he thought he was taking the same drugs that he usually took. But unfortunately, it must have been laced with something else. And I think they said it was laced with fentanyl. And he literally passed out for 5 hours in his car. And he was literally like a block away from the Ravens, who were having a preseason game that night. So he said he kind of woke up and it was nighttime. And that's kind of when he was like, okay, I need to fix my life. Like, I almost just died. So, yeah, he went to rehab, I think in Maine. And man, just, he was a success story. He's now obviously, the funny thing is, he was still with the Ravens when he got reinstated, and he was working, he was on the practice squad, and John Gruden saw him literally, he wasn't even in pads, saw him just catching balls, and John Gruden's like, who the heck is this guy? And next thing you know, before the Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders left town because they were playing the Ravens, they ended up signing Darren Waller on to their team. So that was a new thing I didn't know that you could do, just take people from each other teams' practice squads. Mm-hmm. But it makes sense. Baseball has something just like that in place, so that you can't just hold on to talent. And next thing you know, we all know who Darren Waller is. He's like Pro Bowler, right? And he's top-notch tight end now. He's huge. So even though he was playing receiver, they pretty much just moved to tight end or is he not a tight end?
No, he is.
Okay.
Was he drafted as a receiver by the Ravens, or when did he switch to tight end?
I don't know.
Did it say?
That's a good question. No, I don't know. I just know that I was just confused because they were calling him a receiver at the beginning, and I was like, this dude's humongous.
He is ginormous.
Yeah.
Big guy.
Yes. But I wanted to talk about, he said the things that really changed his life were like the little small things. He became not obsessed, but he really fixated on small things and doing them right. He actually was I think he was a clerk at a grocery store or a bagger, one of the two. while he was suspended from the NFL. So he was just kind of trying to find his way. And, you know, him just doing stock at the grocery store and just the little things, making sure the rows were right. You know, and I worked at Best Buy, and it's called laser lining. So he was laser lining all the products, and he just found peace in doing all that. And then once that kind of shifted him to another level, and he started working out again and just getting after it. And, you know, he became obsessed with, you know, working out and getting his life back together. And then now we're seeing, you know, the product of all that hard work and a lot of his support system, you know, just being there for him. I mean, his parents, dad, you know, they could have, you know, did a lot of things, but they stuck with him. And I think that his dad had a saying like, you know, I forget how he worded it. It was something about a horse, but he was saying that, you know, no matter what, win or lose, you're always going to be my horse. I'm always going to, you know, ride with you. And I was like, that's pretty neat. You know, obviously you can see your son downward spiraling and you feel like you can't do anything about it, but he always stayed positive. So having a support system is pretty important.
It is. And I think it's Max Crosby is the defensive lineman for the Raiders.
Yes.
Same team.
Yes.
Same type of history, dealt with drug addiction and was able to overcome it. And now I watched him last week on, what was that, Monday Night Football, and he was tearing it up.
That's just, I love those success stories, man.
Yeah.
And to all those people who like to build people up and then see them fall, it's just, I mean, some people obviously mess up and they mess up big. I get it, but I just hate to see that. You know, I hate to see the number 1 overall pick, you know, being labeled a bust. You know, sometimes they are, like Jamarcus Russell, but I still hate to see that. And, you know, we've actually saw it rear its ugly head again. I love that saying. I don't know if you remember Kwame Brown. He was a first round draft pick in the NBA out of high school as a center. He was 7 foot, and he was like the butt of all jokes in the NBA for the longest time. And now he's kind of getting his payback. He has his own YouTube channel. He's just going off on people, and he's releasing a lot of secrets that people don't want released. So I gave a speech to Dover 6th grade years ago about burning bridges. You don't want to do that. So, but yeah, it was nice when I was, you know, watching this video and John Harbaugh was being interviewed, and he was like, man, you know, I'm glad to see him doing great things, but it should be for us. He's like, it stinks, but I'm glad to see him doing well. And, you know, that's always a weird subject, but yeah, I mean, when you first heard this story, what were you like? Man, that's awesome. Just like the Crosby, I guess.
Oh yeah. So like through fantasy football, I follow a lot of the teams like during training camp and preseason and stuff like that. So when Waller got signed by the Raiders, his name started popping up in my news feed every day. Like this Darren Waller guy's popping out of camp. And, you know, there's always training camp heroes every year, but he just kept standing out. And like the reporters from Raiders camp kept just saying, this guy is for real. Yeah. So I looked up, I remember back then I was looking up, what was that, 3 years ago? Yeah. Looking up and seeing, well, who is Darren Waller? And then I saw that he, you know, was recovering from drug addiction, all that stuff. So it's a very cool story. I wish that Josh Gordon could have had the same type of recovery. Yeah. And he still can. I wish he could have had it when he was still young enough to be a real high impact player.
Yeah, exactly. And I just feel like it's so weird now. I don't know the details about Josh Gordon, but to me, it just seems like, you know, now the rules have changed, and it just, he wouldn't have if he would have been coming out now, his career wouldn't have went down in the drain. Well, as far as we know.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I
you can't really play that, but it's unfortunate for him. But you know, you gotta, you know.
But even though the rules have changed as far as like marijuana and stuff like that, and I guess I don't really know exactly what the rule is now, but you know, it's still an addiction.
Yeah, true.
You know, he was still struggling with that, whether it was allowed to be had or not. Whenever he was playing, it was, you know, it was still a problem.
Gotcha. Okay. See, I looked at it as he smokes marijuana, which obviously isn't good, but you know, it's not as bad as certain things. So that's the way I was looking at it. Like through a non-educated viewpoint, but now I'm a part of the Prevention Action Alliance, and I'm being well educated now on marijuana and how it goes in our society and our culture. And there's a lot of misconceptions, but we're not getting into that on the show. So especially because I don't know anything about it. I've never even tried it, so I'm a noob to all of it is marijuana. So, but yeah, I was glad to hear that story. But I know going to this next story, about Warren Buffett, I really hit I want to say 3 years ago, I became obsessed with, finance and stocks. And I started reading all these books and listening to all these podcasts. And, I really started to be conscious about, my money and stuff. And, obviously we can't all have Warren Buffett money, but But I was reading this article about the advice he gave to a young guy. I want to say it was 2004. They asked him, what advice would you give to a young person? And I've always been taught this, people in Dover, coaches, teachers, they always say, be careful who you hang out with. But, he just said it very simple. He said, hang with others that are better than you. Let me say that again. I feel like I rolled my tongue there. Hang out with others that are better than you. People with, better behavior and better habits. Hang out with those people and, you'll be better eventually. So I think I've done that in my life. It wasn't like an intentional thing where I'm like, hey, that guy's got a good head on his shoulders. He knows what he's doing. Or, hey, that girl, she's very good at sports and she likes the same things I do. And she's getting good grades in school. It was just I just gravitated towards those people. So, but it's not, Dover, we had a lot of those people. So it wasn't really hard to find. But I think it's important that, because if you think of young people, not even just in where we live, but all across, they have a lot more stuff to kind of drag them back with gangs and stuff. And you just want to feel like you belong. And it's hard, when you're growing up. But I think, this advice is just super easy to, I guess, follow for most people. But I still feel like, kids are mean. So
that's the problem with this. So I was going to say, if the people who are better than you don't want you to hang out with them, they don't want to hang out with you, then what are you supposed to, but
just spy on them and listen to their conversations. No,
growing up is tough.
Yeah.
Kids are mean, man.
Yeah.
It gets nasty.
It does. I mean, I was fortunate to, I guess, be a part of the crowd that was, doing positive things and wanted to go to college and do that. There was other influences out there. I just knew better, I guess. I don't know how I gravitated towards those people. If it was my parents telling me, hey, this is what you should be doing, and all the coaches and teachers just being a positive influence in my life, this made me want to hang out with those people. But I never understood why some people gravitated towards a different crowd that was not necessarily, setting themselves up for a good future. Whether if they even cared about their future, they were just kind of living for the momentarily, satisfaction of doing whatever it was.
I think a big thing for a lot of people, and I mean, it obviously is a big issue for young people, and it starts when you're young, is lack of self-confidence. So if you're not confident in yourself, you know what I mean, then you don't have the confidence to go try to strike up friendships with people that you think are better than you. You kind of just settle for less, I guess. Yeah. Does that make sense?
It does. And then when you said that, it also popped in my mind. It's weird to think that when you're young. Now, Warren Buffett's quote was probably mostly, aimed toward people who graduated high school or graduated college and they're looking at their career. It's a little bit different. And I'm more of our conversation, and I feel like I'm leaning towards, middle school, high school kids where, it is kind of brutal. Mm-hmm. And then it's also on the other end, looking at it like, what do you mean better than me? Then the people could look at it that way. What do you mean better? Because, maybe their parents had more money than, my parents and no, that's not what I don't think he's trying to aim toward. He's just, you can tell who's heading down the right path, who's got, admirations of going to college and doing better things with their life and getting a great job and having a family and doing all that stuff. Not that everybody has to do that, but it's easy to tell what type of people are into what and what their future may look like and what their aspirations are, as opposed to, people who aren't heading in the right direction.
Yeah. And
I'm trying to say it as politely as possible.
If you're talking like toward like young adults rather than like the younger middle school age kids, I mean, it's one of the key leadership things that I forget who first kind of talked about it, but I really latched onto the idea of if you're the smartest person in the room, then you've got problems. You want to make sure you surround yourself with people that are smarter than you, better than you at what you do. Because I think one of the fears of leaders and people in general is, well, if this person over here is better at doing X, Y, Z than I am, then I'm going to lose my job or lose favor to that person. Whereas actually you're going to learn a lot by being around that person who's better at what you want to do. That's how you get better. Yeah.
And I like that. And I think that's important to just take a positive spin on a lot of things. People always want to look at, what's wrong with something. But I think if we focus on, okay, this is what I want to do. Like, hey, I want to be a video game designer or a quarterback or, a singer or whatever it is. You want to gravitate towards someone who's doing it at a high level or a higher level than you are, so you can learn from them. So it's pretty self-explanatory, but I know I just want to touch on a little bit because I know there's some people that aren't probably doing it and probably need to hear that message. So I hope you heard it. No, I'm just, but I know that's what I wanted to do, and not necessarily all the time did they want me around, but I kind of just made it happen. I was annoying. Just ask Krista. No. But I think it was something good. My nose itches. But I think it was something good that I thought I would share. And I really admire Warren Buffett. This guy has $80 billion, but he still, only takes like $4 with him to work, and he gets like a McMuffin from McDonald's or something on the way to work, and that's it. Like he doesn't spend money. That's another thing I wanted to share with people is, and I have no license or anything. I'm not, an accountant or anything. But I do know if you want to become rich, do not spend your money. Tip of the day. No. But it's hard because something that I'm about to talk about next makes it really hard to not spend your money, especially if you're someone like me, and that's technology. And I'm about to talk about the upcoming launch of the iPhone 13 and the iPhone 13 Pro and the iPhone 13 Pro Max and the iPhone 13 Mini. So, I've watched tons of videos on it just because even though I didn't have any, aspirations of purchasing this iPhone, I like to keep up on technology. So I always read and watch and do all this stuff because I love stuff like this. And if you don't, sorry, but you're going to have to sit through this. I've grown up as known as the IT person. So whenever people want to have questions about anything, then I'm the person they go to. But yeah, so iPhone 13, I feel like this should be called the iPhone 12S. Small incremental upgrade. And one of the upgrades that I enjoy, I feel like most people aren't going to or even notice. And that's like high refresh rate screens. So like, I know people, when you buy a TV, you hear that number 60 hertz, 120 hertz, 240 hertz. That just means how many times your screen can refresh in a second. And the higher is not always best. So if you're watching a movie, those are shot in 24 frames per second, which is not a high frame rate. But once it gets higher frame rate, it feels like you're on set and it just doesn't have that theater feel. So most people like to watch movies in lower frames per second or hertz. This video was in 30 frames per second. So it's a little bit higher than a movie, but still smooth enough to where, my hand has blur and stuff like that. Without getting too nerdy, I'll do a little analogy for you. Little stick figures, like pictures that people would draw in the bottom corner of a book, and you turn the page and it looks like, it tells a story, or flip the book. Stick figures. What's it called?
Flip book.
Yeah. So flip book. It would just be adding more pages in there and not having sudden movements. It just be real smooth. And sports, video games, and stuff like that, it's better to capture at a higher frame rate. And the iPhone's been at 60 hertz or 60 frames per second for a long time. And people are accustomed to that. But me being a gamer and being on computers, I love high refresh rate because the screen, it just reacts faster to what you're doing, whether you're swiping, whether you're watching high frame rate content, sports, and, playing video games, stuff like that. It's just better to consume. And the iPad since 2018 has had that, and I've enjoyed that. But they finally brought it to the iPhone. That's one of the big upgrades. The other one is camera, and iPhone 12's camera is already great. iPhone 11 and 10 camera is already great. So most people don't need to upgrade to this iPhone 13, which, like I said, should be called the iPhone 12s because of the little amount of upgrades. It does have, I love portrait mode. And I know the Fell family, they love portrait mode as well because they always take their photos with the portrait mode. And if you don't know what portrait mode on the iPhone is, are you living under a rock? No, I'm just, it's where you can change your photo to where the background is blurred and it looks like a professional took the picture. So right now, this camera that I'm using to shoot this podcast has actual bokeh effect with the aperture. And I'm not going to get into more nerdy stuff, but it has real bokeh effect with the blurred background. But the iPhone uses, computational photography, which just means a computer's doing all the stuff behind the scenes. And it allows for the background to be blurred. But it hasn't been able to do that for video because that's really hard. But somehow Apple has been able to do this. So now they're coming out with cinematic video that allows you, just for an example, I know if you're ever watching a movie and say I'm here, I'm in the screen and I'm looking at something, and then maybe there's something going on behind me. I'll look behind me and the camera will focus on that object and my head will be then blurred. That's kind of what you can do with the iPhone now. So you can kind of as you're taking the video, click on parts of the screen you want to focus on. And if you watch the September event from Apple, it shows that, and it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. I'm going to be like, dang, I wish I had that feature. But it's pretty cool, and I think it's something people are going to love. I'm definitely going to be jealous. Hopefully, I don't know anybody that upgrades to iPhone 13. But I think the biggest upgrade of them all is the battery. So I know a lot of people have troubles with their phone battery, charging it after a few, like maybe a year and a half or something, it just starts to stink. But a lot of stuff I've done, the research I've done on the new iPhones, they finally made the iPhone thicker, which allows them to put a bigger battery in. And the people are reporting that the iPhone 13 Pro Max, that's the big one, can go 2 days. So if you ever monitor your screen time on your iPhone like I do, and like I monitor my kids, I think on average, I have about 4 hours of screen on time. And I use my phone for work and everything. So 4 hours a day, I'm looking at my phone. But that includes my iPad as well. So I think about 3 hours and 15 minutes, I'm looking at my actual cell phone. The reported time that you can do on the new iPhone 13 Max or 13 Pro Max is people are ending the day with 5 hours of screen on time and still having half the battery left. So that's pretty impressive. Thank you, Apple. No one cares that your phone is thin as a credit card. We want battery. So that was good. And I'm glad they actually finally upgraded the battery. So, but let me know in the comments if you're going to upgrade. I wish I could, but I'm trying to be responsible. But to be honest, if my aunt or whoever's asking me if they should upgrade, if you have an iPhone 10, yes, upgrade. If you have an iPhone 11, I don't think so. I mean, I would have had an iPhone 11, but if you're trying to make a great decision and be responsible, then you wouldn't. And of course, if you have a 12, no, do not upgrade. So, but make sure you let me know down below if you are going to upgrade and why, because, obviously I love the 120 hertz and the cinematic video, but some of you might not care about any of that. So, let me get your, obviously I know you're not the tech nerd like me, but let me get your output. After I just spewed all that information and details about this iPhone 13, what are your thoughts? What phone do you have right now?
I got the 11.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So
I appreciate, what's that?
Sorry, are you upgrading?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good right now.
Okay.
I'm with you on the money thing.
Gotcha. We can't talk about Warren Buffett and then tell you to upgrade your phone.
Right. But no, I appreciate the explanation on the refresh rate. Because I kind of like, I knew all about that, but like the way you explained it made it even more like, okay, that makes a lot more sense now.
The flip book. No.
Yeah, the flip book. Thank you. No, I didn't. But what I didn't realize was the difference between movies being shot lower and wanting to watch them in 60 versus like 240.
Yeah.
But sports or video games are the big one.
Yeah. It's definitely a game changer. My wife, before the high refresh rate got real popular, you could do like a fake upgrade where it's, they use the computer and the TV to upgrade it. And they called it True Motion, I think, for the LG or something, whatever. And my wife, it was on by default. And my wife's like, why are these movies looking weird? I don't like this. And I finally was like, oh, it's because True Motion's on. And it was kind of just upscaling it to 120 hertz when it was not supposed to be that. And it just made it look weird. Like you were literally standing on set looking at them act it out. And you're just like, this is
anytime
weird.
I'm at somebody's house and they have that on and there's a movie playing, I'm like, it looks so... It just doesn't look right. And it almost looks like it's too fast. Like things have just happened and you're like, what?
What just happened? What is that? Yeah, it is weird. And I know there, like on the internet, if you watch a lot of MKBHD, he's a big YouTuber. There's always arguments of what the best frame rate is for video like this or like a movie. And it's funny to kind of keep up with that. I do. I know most of you probably don't, but it's just hilarious, the back and forth of what the right frame rate is. Some people are saying 24, some people are saying 30. I think for movies, 24 is good, but for YouTube videos like this, I think 30 is good. I just think 24 is a little too choppy. But if you're in a movie where they're using way more expensive cameras than we are, I think it makes a difference. But I just think it's a funny debate that most of us aren't included in, and I feel very lonely, but no one's ever like, what are you talking about, Percy? But anyways, whatever. There's a couple other things I wanted to touch on that are kind of, I don't want to, upset any of my real estate friends, but this real estate, I read an article today about of real estate commission rates being challenged by the federal government or the Justice Department. And the article said it's happened before and obviously it didn't succeed because it's still set up the way it is. But there's some arguments saying, people who are purchasing house don't have a say-so because the people who are selling get to set the commission rate and all that stuff. I don't have a huge issue with the commission that real estate agents make, because every time I've dealt with a real estate agent, they have provided a service for me and a value that I didn't feel upset about what I was paying. Now, I know, the house I sold is not that expensive, so it wasn't a lot of money that I had to give to them. But when you're talking about other houses across the country, when it's, $500,000, $1 million, $1 million house, you got to pay $50,000. You're just like, that's a lot of money. I think it's a necessary thing to look at. I don't necessarily foreshadow there being a lot of changes, but it's just something that I looked at, and I just want to quickly mention and not really dive deep into it. But if you guys have any opinions, obviously drop them down below in the comment section, and I can, you can educate me on those. Or if you want to come on the show and talk about it, we can. And I'll be following this story. But, Josh, you've bought a house. Have you sold one yet, or you just bought one?
No, I haven't sold. Still in the first one.
Gotcha.
But
what was your experience like? Nothing really. Because I know there's some people out there like, no, I'm selling my house by myself.
Sure. And that's, I guess, without having read the story and knowing all the details about it and just hearing your explanation, I mean, if you don't want to pay commission to your real estate agent for their services, which it's their job, it's their livelihood, then don't go get their services.
Yeah, true.
You know what I mean? That's kind of how this whole thing works. Like, you don't want to do it yourself, so you got to pay somebody else to do it. I mean, You know, I don't cut my own hair. I pay somebody else to cut my hair. I mean, I don't gripe about what she charges. I just give it to her because I don't want to cut my own hair. So I don't know. That's just how I am. That's how I think.
Yeah. I mean, and nowadays the housing market, there's a lot more that goes into it than just putting a for sale sign out there. Yeah. You know, they gotta pay a photographer to come in and take pictures of your home, make it look good, presentable, because obviously you want to sell your house. Then they have to post it to all these websites, and they have to kind of market your house. And marketing is not, or advertising is not free. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. So I'm kind of leaning towards the side of the real estate agent.
Oh, I am too, just because like my real estate agent that I work with, I mean, she does stuff that I'm like, I wouldn't even know like where to begin. I mean, and I don't want to think about it. You know what I mean? Like I just want to be able to text her and say, hey, blah. And then she does all the work behind the scenes, and she's got to get paid for that. Whenever the sale's made. So
well, that solves that then.
Absolutely.
But if you have a difference of opinion, drop it down below. I really want to hear what people think, because I know this is kind of like could be controversial, or just there's going to be. I feel like back to people and seeing people fall. They love to see. I think people love division. I don't know what it is. They love rooting for a different team, and then at the Steelers game, I was hearing some fans that, there was a kid with a Washington Redskins jersey, and just he was literally, he looked like he was maybe he graduated high school. There's grown men like, oh, he needs to be beat down. He's terrible. I'm just like, what? Like, and this goes back to my boss that I had when I was doing life insurance. He was so mad because we were having an argument in the office, between the Browns and stuff like that. And he's like, you guys, care more about the Browns than you do your family. I've never seen you argue on your family's behalf this hard. I was like, dang, he's kind of right. Hey, I wasn't involved in that. I love my family. No, but I just know, there's a whole bunch of factors that divide us in this life. And I just feel like, some of them are fun, like sports are fun, but sometimes it can get out of hand. Like I saw a clip of somebody fighting in the stands of a game. I'm just like, why, man? Like, just have fun, watch the game, and be entertained. But it's something that I don't think is ever going to change. We like having things different, but I feel like they should be celebrated instead of how they are handled right now. I mean, am I just making this up, or do you feel like, obviously we're not going to get into like the politics thing, because obviously that's one of the most divisive things in America, but I guess the whole world, not just America. But instead of people just admiring, because if we were all the same, it'd be really weird, and no one would be great because we'd all be the same. But I think we should celebrate it more than we do. And, not to, I love to get on my soapbox, but and sound like I'm almighty, but I'm not. And for those people who, obviously put me on a pedestal, I think you shouldn't, because I'm an awful human just like everyone else, because we're just not, we're not perfect. So everyone has their little thing, or multiple things, or a lot of things that they do that, that it just isn't good, and you wouldn't want everyone to know that you do that. So I would encourage people, and this really sounds like I'm on a soapbox, but I would encourage people to, just kind of think about how you can improve yourself before you, rush to point the finger and all that stuff. I mean, what you got, Josh?
100%,
you agree?
100% agree.
All right, glad.
We're all created individually, so we're all different. Like, I'm not the same as you. There's nobody's the same as you. Nobody's the same as me. I mean, we're all different. So I agree with you on that. We should, celebrate differences between people, and, admire the things that other people are good at, or that they have that you don't. And
pay them for that, because
there you go.
Go back to the real estate.
Yeah.
No, but I always appreciate, your 2 cents. And
that's all you're ever going to get is 2.
And I know I said this was supposed to be a 30-minute show, but we just talk and we get going, and I enjoy it, and hopefully you enjoy it.
It's fun.
Okay.
I like these.
Yeah, it's a lot better than your Browns talk you have to do. No,
There's that division.
I know. I swear, I'm all about positivity. You know, but I do have fun doing these shows, and I always like to, thank you for what you do here at the 99 Mile Per Hour podcast.
Oh yeah.
And one of these times, I'm gonna get my jerseys up behind me and stuff.
Let's
and
do it.
Make it look cool, like you do. The Dogs podcast looks really cool. So it's just unfortunate that they have like poop on their jerseys. No, I'm joking. I actually like their uniforms. Especially when they're all white. But we'll see what happens this Sunday. Who you think they're gonna win? They're gonna beat the Bears.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Justin Fields, let's go, baby. No.
I think the rookie might struggle a little bit.
Yeah, you think so?
First start.
He looked like he struggled a little bit last week, too.
He holds on to the ball a little too long.
Yeah.
Right now. He's a rookie.
I saw a video that said, this is what Cam Newton should have did. And I was like, what does this mean? And then it clicked. Justin Fields, when he fumbled, he scratched tooth and nail to get to that fumble and recover it. And then everybody was like, hey, if you go back to the Super Bowl.
Yes. Yeah, where he just kind of was like, oh,
there's a football right there. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not going for it.
And I love Cam Newton, but it was kind of like a good shot taken.
Well, and that was early in the game.
Yeah.
Right? Wasn't it first drive?
I don't
first
think
Panthers
so.
drive?
Was it?
I thought it was because I thought it set the tone for the rest of the game. That he didn't even want the fumble.
I feel like at that point it was set that the Panthers were not there to win. But I don't know.
I'll have to go back and look now.
We'll have to figure that out.
Yep. Drop it in the comments. Let us know.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, I hear a lot of people, before I wrap this up, I do hear a lot of people that compliment me, people that I don't think listen to this podcast, and they're just like, oh yeah, man, listen to one episode. I loved it, man. I'm just like, it feels good. Obviously we would love to, get to the 1,000 mark of subscribers and, have, you guys like the video because it does send the video out and lets it get to more people. And if you enjoy the content we're making, that would just be great to share it with people. And I think that YouTube is something that I really enjoy producing videos for. Well, let me read. I enjoy making videos. Josh produces them.
I didn't even catch that.
Yeah. But I think it's just something, as long as Josh is willing to do it and help me out, then, just keep on doing it, man. Maybe I got to make an appearance other than that live show we did. Since I'm going to Steelers games now, I can fight you guys. Actually, I don't have a lot of ammo right now, but Ben looked bad.
Yeah. Twice.
He said twice. Defense is in there, but yeah. All right, let's just end the show. Appreciate everybody watching. Appreciate those who have subscribed. Please subscribe. Please like. And, make sure you do visit the description and check out my merch store. Should have mentioned that at the beginning. We try to get as much content out there, on TikTok. That's listed below, Instagram, all that stuff. I try to put some reels and TikTok videos up from clips of this. So if you don't want to sit through a whole 40 minute hour, that was a
54-minute hour, man. All right.
That's a fast hour. But and if you enjoy these solo episodes, let us know. If you enjoy the guest ones more, then we'll try to make that more. I like making my own content because I think it's fun anyway. But if there is something that you guys recommend or prefer, then obviously I got to meet you guys halfway and just make videos that I like, So, but yeah, again, appreciate y'all for coming. Appreciate Josh, and we'll see you next week. Peace.
I got a crib by the water. Say me casa, su casa. It feels like Casablanca. Shawty, you my little mama. I got a crib by the water. Say me casa, su casa. It feels like Casablanca. Shawty, you my little mama. She be on that Henny. I like that Corona.